May I pose a question? Who deserves the best flutes? Does anyone have any idea? If you're in a room with 20 people, who should deserve the best flutes? Well, Aristotle asked the exact same question. Who should receive it? Is it the most beautiful person? Or is it the most richest person? Or is it the person who can play the flute the most well and most brilliantly? Well, his answer was that the person who can play the flute the most brilliantly should deserve the flute, because that is what flutes are essentially made for. Flutes are used to be played well, and flutes are used to be produce good music. So, following, I would like to talk about how a similar story from Winnie the Pooh could bring out why diversity and meritocracy are very important factors in university admissions nowadays. So, one day, Winnie the Pooh was walking in the forest and he heard a buzzing sound. So he was wondering, who is making that buzzing sound? Of course, it's a bee. And he was wondering, what is the purpose of a bee? And he believed that the purpose of a bee is to make honey. And what's the point of honey? He believes that honey is used so that it's produced so that he could eat the honey. So this draws on from Aristotle's idea because of the fact that he draws from the telos. Telos is a Greek word meaning purpose as well as the end goal. And he believes that every decision made or every question should have an answer that is in accordance to the telos, in which we analyze the goal of doing something as well as the purpose of doing something. So, how does this extend to our discussion today? Three main reasons why diversity policies are being implemented in universities nowadays is due to these three main ideas. First is the corrective argument. The corrective argument talks about how people who come from discriminated or less privileged families are able to provide a higher academic promise when they are given better education. So therefore, this corrective argument would support the fact that having a diverse student body is going to be able to help these students. The second kind of idea is the compensatory argument, which talks about how students that might have been marginalized or come from a minority background could be assisted due to the fact that their family is directly affected from the history of discrimination or slavery, etc. And the third main reason why diversity policies are being implemented is the diversity argument. First, the educational standpoint is that when you are studying with people of more diverse backgrounds, you have a higher rate of academic excellence due to the fact that you are studying with people coming from different backgrounds, as you're able to understand how they live their lives as well as how they study. The other factor, which is a major factor in today's discussion, is the societal factor. Universities and schools and institutions are built to also ensure that we have a competent workforce, a workforce that has different diverse individuals. In the sector of legislation as well as peacemaking, we need people of diverse grounds in order to make a fair judgment. So moving on, I'm going to bring to you a story about how a person was rejected from a university due to the fact that the university was implementing diversity quotas at the time. So, in the 20th century, the Hopwood case, where Cheryl Hopwood was rejected from the University of Texas Law School because of the fact that the university was implementing a diversity quota at the time. So she believed that she was discriminated from that university quota. Well, she was a white person, but that doesn't mean that she did not go through all hard work in order to reach where she is at today. So this brings up the question, does anyone actually have the right to be judged on grades and scores alone? So Hopwood believed that her individual rights was being violated at the time, so she brought the case to the law courts, and in fact she won. This is due to the fact that she believed that there wasn't enough establishment in the university's mission to provide and accommodate diversity quotas before test grades academic excellence. So she believed that her chance of getting into law school was being violated and her rights were not being given. So Could a university define their own mission? Is it the university's purpose, and is it the university's role to define their own purpose? Because universities are essentially, most of them, private institutions as well as public ones, do define their own mission to whether they want to cater to certain types of students, whether in terms of subjects or in terms of the population in the area. So we believe that could a university define their own mission spans from how good the mission is and whether it follows the telos, essentially their purpose and their mission. So a university could define their own mission if they identify these goals. So if we understand that many of these universities still do not have the quotas, we believe that if we get our mindsets around the fact that we have to have diversity in our societies. So this is a matter of inclusion versus exclusion. So right now we have a positive inclusion of minorities, people who have been discriminated before, as well as the fact that in the past, people are being excluded from attending schools and institutions because of the fact that perhaps they weren't Chinese, they weren't white, or they didn't have the capabilities that the schools were aiming to provide. Moving on, we believe that by having the Aristotelian thinking, essentially the telos, we are able to draw on the fact and make the best choice. So essentially, what is the Aristotelian thinking is that Aristotle believes that justice should be given to the person on what is due. And we believe that right now, what is due to people who have been discriminated, the minorities, is that they have been discriminated in the past and they do not have the capability to continue to learn and as well as work in the workforce as those people who have not been discriminated. So therefore, if we draw on the Aristotelian thinking, we're able to account merit to include not only academic excellence, but also diversity quotas. Finally, we draw on the telos and the fact that if universities do include merit as well as diversity into their university admissions, we are able to define merit as not prior to justice, but merit as being directly defining justice itself. So thank you very much.